What's up, guys? So today I'm reviewing the DJI RS3 Mini. A bit of a mouthful there. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a lengthy review, so before I get into it, I just want to say I highly recommend this gimbal, as long as obviously your camera fits within the weight specifications for it. If it does, definitely go out and get this. Ditch your RS2, even your RS3, and definitely if you have one of the older Ronins, go for this. This thing is tiny, has great power, and works just like all its big brothers. So that being said, I just wanted to show you kind of my setup right here. I have a handle off of my RS2 and then a small rig grip right here, so that's where I mount my monitor to. It's kind of hard, right? There's not a lot of real estate on the actual body of the RS3 Mini to mount anything, so having your monitor down here is definitely good for that. Something else that I just wanted to mention, just gimbals in general, especially these kind of like one-handed stick style gimbals, is that a reason why, I've run all sorts of different gimbals, from the FreeFly and then all the different DJI Ronin models all the way up to the RS2, and I always liked having the ring around the gimbal, and that's because the weight of the camera, your hands get to be right where it's at. Whereas if you're holding this thing, it gets really top heavy really quickly and you're really straining your wrists. So if you get this, that's the reason people get handles, is to try to help take some of that strain off your wrist. But if you have the handles down here, you're still going to have that strain. And what you want to do is try to get the handles up higher so they're more in line with the actual weight of the gimbal so it doesn't get so top heavy. Anyway, all that to say, yes, this is kind of my setup. And right now I'm running the Sony FX3 on here. I'll put an ND filter on here, variable ND when I'm outside, but for right now I just have just the gimbal and the lens on there. This is the Sigma 24-70 art lens, and it does balance on here just fine. I am pretty much at the limit of the different adjustments, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So keep that in mind, like you can't add a ton of accessories on here. If you're running manual lenses and you want to have follow focus, like this is not for you. This works great. I don't have it on here, but it comes with a USB-C cable, which fits in a number of different brands of cameras, and depending on your brand of camera, at least with the Sony, you're able to control the focus from the gimbal down here using the little scroll wheel. So between controlling the focus from the thumb wheel and then the autofocus on the Sony lens or on the Sigma lens, like, I'm set, and that works awesome. Following, you're out there, doing any sort of walk-in talks, or you're doing any sort of just B-roll shots. Like, this thing is so cool because it's so tiny. It weighs less than the camera, which is huge when you're out there, carrying this thing around trying to get the shots, and it works just like its big brothers. Obviously with this camera on it, it's a little over 3 pounds. The weight limit on this is 4.5 pounds, 4.4 pounds or something like that. So well within the weight limit for it. I know I've seen a lot of people using like the Sony A7 IV or something on here, and for some reason, like, they can get it to balance really easy. I had a hard time balancing the FX3. It was really front heavy. Maybe it's just the Sony lens that I have on, but I even tried some old, Zeiss glass that I have that are smaller size lenses, and it was still really difficult to get to balance. So right at the limit of how far you can adjust it, so just keep that in mind. It's really going to depend on the weight of your setup and then your lens and camera combo. But I can attest that it does work with the FX3, FX30 obviously, with the Sigma 24-70 art lens on there. Now I'm just going to power this down real quick and lock it up. Something that's different about the way this gimbal is designed, it does have the locks, on all the axes, but you can also, because they understand that a lot of the bigger cameras for this setup, you're going to have everything, all the adjustments pushed out to the edge, or pushed out as far as you can go. So it doesn't pack all the way down by folding the gimbal up because of the adjustments I have on here. But they kind of thought of that already. And so what you can do is it has kind of like a half lock on the adjustments. So instead of trying to adjust this arm all the way down on here, you can see it hits right there because of how far I have the roll axis extended. It actually has like a partial lock. So it'll lock right there. which is nice so that it does pack down a little bit smaller than having it fully extended and you can just throw it in your bag. I wish it did come with the, sorry, I guess apparently didn't turn it off here. I wish it did come with a carry case for it, but it's small enough you can really just throw it in your bag, camera bag, side bag, and it doesn't take up too much room there. Now, an issue that I was having when I was balancing the roll axis with my FX3 on here was that the camera plate right here, it actually slides back and forth, but it wouldn't slide far enough to be able to fully balance the roll, because, you know, I have an HDMI cable normally coming off the side of the camera, so it was always tilting, you know, rolling this way. And I've seen some really ingenious stuff on YouTube. One guy actually took this whole piece off, which you can do, right? Because this allows for vertical shooting, so you can slide it onto here. Anyway, he took this piece off and then drilled a hole through this adjustment arm right here and just attached his own little Arca Swiss plate on there. Great idea, but I really don't like, obviously, drilling through my gear if I can help it, and then the plate is locked right there. You don't have any additional adjustments. So all I did, the plate comes this way, so you slide the camera, right, from front to back. It slides off, and I just flipped it around. So I put it on backwards, and that gives you a little bit of extra adjustment to be able to pull the camera this way to get the roll to balance, and it works great. Now, just be aware that it does have a quick release on here, so that, right, it doesn't slide off, but when you have the plate flipped around, this plate can slide all the way off, all on its own. It doesn't have a safety or anything on there to catch it. So just be aware of that, but I always keep it locked down, so I've never had any issues with it. But it's just a nice, easy way of not, you know, hurting your gimbal at all, but still being able to get just a little bit of extra adjustment to get your FX3 to balance properly on the roll axis. So it has all the regular functions that like the RS2 has, or RS3 I'm assuming. You know, you can do time lapse, you can do panorama, you know, all those kind of things. I just use it for shooting B-roll, and it works awesome. You know, I have my user settings set up, so I have some slow follow settings, faster follow settings, all that kind of stuff. It's funny, my wife was actually the one that suggested I check out this gimbal. We travel a lot for work, and so we're always looking to, you know, slim down the gear that we're taking, trying to pack a more efficient, lighter weight stuff. And so we went from the Ronin MX to the RS2, and then, which is we've been rocking with kind of the Pro. The Pro version has the follow focus wheel and everything on it. But since we moved over to the Sony FX3, we have the autofocus lenses, which work awesome. And so she said, check this out. And I was hesitant to, because it's small, and I've tried other companies' smaller gimbals, and they were just never up to par with the Ronin's algorithms and stuff for stability. But this little guy right here, I mean, obviously it's Ronin as well. It's just a smaller version of it, a little bit more lightweight, and it rocks. So it keeps up with its bigger brother, no problem. So just make sure when you get this that your camera setup is going to fit within the weight limits. Try to stay away from really pushing the limits. I'm sure this thing can handle it, but if you want to get the best performance out of it, I definitely keep your setup under 4 pounds. And then it's just the adjustments for trying to make your camera fit. So yeah, if you have issues with the roll axis, definitely flip your camera plate around. And also make sure the RS2's Arca Swiss plates do fit on here, but especially with some of these bigger camera setups, another issue I was having is that it was getting top heavy. And I realized that the RS2 Arca Swiss plates are a little bit higher, or at least one of them is a little bit higher than the one that comes with this. So I was able to put the RS3 Minis plate on there, and it lowered my whole center of gravity on my FX3. So then I was able to get it to balance properly with the, I don't know, whatever this axis is right here. So just some little tips to keep in mind. But if you're looking for a good travel setup, or even an everyday gimbal setup, this is definitely something to keep in mind if you have a smaller camera rig. One thing is it doesn't have a detachable battery grip like the RS2 and the RS3, but as it is, I mean, it lasts for 8 to 10 hours, and I mean, for me, this will last multiple days of shooting because I don't run it constantly all day long. So to each his own though, definitely figure out, you know, what you're going to be using it for, how long you need, and if you don't need to be running it constantly for days on end, then this is something to check out, or if you're traveling or something like that. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys.
This is the DJI RS3 Mini. You can see here I paired it with a Sony A7 III with a Tamron 28-75 lens. This is a pretty heavy setup and it just about manages it. So in terms of payload, if that's what you want to go for, it will deal with it. Couple of things to bear in mind. If you try to go to the side, it starts to freak out a little bit. Not too bad, but it does freak out. You need to go forwards and then to the side, and it won't freak out. It's pretty small, so I'm going to disable it. It's pretty small, and on the menu settings, you've got only a few options really. So you've got like the motor calibration, you've got the mode, you've got the photo speed, you've got joystick speed, joystick smoothness, dial function and dial speed. So dial function here says what the dial does, which is on the back, and you've got the trigger button. These are pretty standard. If you're familiar with the DJI gimbals, you'll know what they do. It's got all of the locks, all of the motor locks like you would normally expect. Couple of things, you can see it is pretty short, and the tripod that they give you is also shorter than the regular tripods that you get with the other gimbals. That means that when you're holding it, it's actually quite a lot of work. Like, they sell it as something that's much easier and lighter, but actually with a relatively heavy camera, it's more work on your wrists, and I guess this is just like physics, right? But if you've got a longer stick, you've got more leverage, and so you feel it less. But with this gimbal, you definitely feel it on your wrists. A couple of other things that are unique about this are the Bluetooth. So you can connect it via Bluetooth to your camera. And you need to turn on the Bluetooth settings in your camera to do that, and it will pair. To pair it, you just pull down and you go to the Bluetooth and you select Bluetooth pairing mode, turn it on your camera, and it will pair. The other thing that is worth knowing about that though is that if you try to if you want to do anything else, if you want to control the aperture, shutter speed, the focusing via the dial, you need the cable, but you can't have Bluetooth and the cable at the same time. It's one or the other, and if you put the cable in, then you need to turn Bluetooth off on your camera, otherwise the cable won't work. So that's a quirk. But with the camera, you can control the focusing, so you can rack focus, which is pretty cool, or control things like ISO or shutter speed. You can also put this into vertical mode, which is the other unique thing about this gimbal. And you can see like the gimbal design is different to the other DJI gimbals. So you unlock this and you pull it off. There's a button there. Disconnect the camera. You're supposed to lock. Let me lock these because you're supposed to lock them to not damage the motors. Okay, so you release this. There's another pin at the bottom. You release that. Now, on here there's a red arrow, and on this there is a red arrow, and you go red arrow to red arrow. It's difficult without looking. And you slide it on and lock it into place. And it's that simple. You obviously now need to recalibrate the gimbal because it's the balance has changed, so you need to rebalance it, recalibrate the motors, do a balance check and all of that good stuff. But you can shoot perfectly well in portrait mode, which is cool. Generally, I really like it, but I would say that you should probably get a extension pole, because holding a heavy setup on a very short grip is very, very tiring on the wrists. So I'll be using it with my extension pole, which kind of undermines the mini part, but at least you can fold it up still and fit it into your bag a little bit more compact than you can if you've got a bigger gimbal.
Y ahora vamos a ponerlo. La verdad es que nunca lo uso con el gimbal en 60 milímetros. Normalmente no paso de 40. Vamos a ponerlo en 40, por ejemplo. Son 80 milímetros en equivalente en full frame. Pero vamos a ver qué nos cuenta la pantalla. La lucecita también está en verde. No hay ningún problema. No hay ningún error. Todo muy bien balanceado. En modo vertical siempre monto el micrófono encima de la cámara, porque he visto que no hay ningún problema con a la hora de balancear la cámara, funciona todo muy bien. Pero en cambio, cuando uso la cámara en modo horizontal, he notado que no se balancea muy bien con el micrófono encima de la cámara, y por eso he adquirido ese accesorio ese adaptador de Small Rig, y monto el micrófono aquí. La verdad es que todo muy bien, ningún problema. Y a ver, la cámara la tengo conectada con el cable. Ya sé que tiene esa opción de disparar con el Bluetooth. Mi cámara tiene Bluetooth y no hay ningún problema. Cuento muy rápido porque uso el cable. Primero, porque siempre uso el enfoque manual, y para poder controlarlo con la rueda tiene que estar conectado el gimbal con la cámara a través del cable. Y el segundo motivo por el que uso el cable es porque me carga la cámara. Y la verdad es que ahora es que me dura mucho más la batería de la cámara ahora cuando está conectada con el cable. Obviamente que la batería del gimbal va a durar un poco menos, pero es que prefiero que me dure más la batería de la cámara que la del gimbal. Para no hacer muy largo este vídeo, os voy a dejar más abajo, os voy a contar toda mi experiencia con este gimbal.
So, die Einstellungen sind für Anfänger gar nicht mal so einfach zu machen. Hier gedrückt halten und das einmal öffnen, und schon kann man die Kamera auch mit dem Schuh nach vorne schieben. Ansonsten gibt es diese Achse, die man einstellt. Das müsste man dann einmal öffnen. Und hier unten kann man die Achse dann sperren bzw. in Benutzung öffnen. Ich habe jetzt ein relativ schweres Objektiv drauf, bin aber noch unter den 2 Kilo, die das Ganze wiegt, und bin hier schon ziemlich hart an der Grenze. Weitere Achse, die man einstellt, ist diese hier. Auch hier bin ich relativ weit an der Grenze. Die Achse lässt sich auch recht schwer mit der Kamera drin, finde ich persönlich, verschieben. Und eine weitere Achse ist diese hier unten, die sich aber dafür ganz gut verschieben lässt. Fokussieren kann man an diesem Rad. Man hört es auch leicht. Hier lässt sich der Gimbal individuell bedienen. Und wenn man wieder das gerade stellen möchte, dann hier einfach doppelt drauf. Und schon schwenkt sich die Kamera wieder geradeaus. Hier an der Seite, wenn man den Power-Button drückt, einmal, würde er in Standby gehen. Und schnell wieder an.
Hey everyone, this is a quick example of the DJI RS3 Mini. Currently attached on top of the gimbal is the Sony a6600 with the Sony 24G master lens. It's f1.4, and this kind of setup works very well. Now, I've been hearing a lot of people on YouTube saying how good it is with the A7 Mark III and A7 Mark IV with the 24 to 70G master lens. Now, with my experience, with the cage or without, that's really not the case. I don't think it's suitable at all. The RS3 or the RS-C2 are more appropriate for the larger setups, whereas this one, I would say, really excels when it comes to the more compact cameras. So we're talking about APS-C size sensored cameras, mirrorless that is, or micro four thirds, etc. And yeah, so if you only dealing with this kind of camera setup, I would highly recommend this gimbal because it works so well. But if you do have a larger setup, or you like to dabble with various sizes cameras, it's about £150 extra to go for the bigger brother. I know it's not as compact, but you're going to really cover yourself for all the equipment you're going to be using on it. But anyway, that's enough talking about the bigger version of the RS3 Mini. Let's just have a quick example of the stabilization, so you can see just how smooth that is. That is using the third gen stabilization algorithm from DJI. Yeah, very good. So overall, yes, I would recommend this, but really do look at your setup and see whether this gimbal is appropriate for you or whether the larger models would be more suited. Thank you for watching.
Alright, so let's take a look at this product here. As you can see, it kind of has a life of its own. Here's the different modes. So here, pan follow. This one is the only one that really works. It goes left to right. And again, we're looking at the RS Ronin 3 Mini. See, again, just on its own, it abruptly moves. And this is really dangerous if you've got an expensive camera like I've got here. Okay, this is pan, tilt, and follow. And again, nothing, locks. You know, all of the axes were unlocked or are unlocked. It just stopped automatically. But we can't get any movement here. We can't get any lift on this axis. So the only thing you really get is from right to left, you know, or left to right, really. You know, it's not this product, this Mini 3 version of Ronin. It's just not strong enough. And I mean, you could maybe calibrate all day and get it to work for 2 minutes, but who wants to spend $400 to do that? So I'm going to give this a thumbs down.
Okay, I've set the follow mode to pan follow because what I wanted my camera to do was to stay nice and level as I walked. So let's try that. I'm going to walk, see how steady it stays. And then what I like is as I turn, I have it in slow follow so that it nicely brings the camera to a stop after I turn. Now if I were to put it into PTF mode, then it would tilt slowly with me as I tilt. And then there's first person view, which means that it follows more whatever I do. And you can set various custom modes as well.
error luôn. Error sih nyaw. Tuh, keren.
Lá bên đây nó đào nước lén.
Sing error betul.